Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really interesting dinosaur, Bactrosaurus.
That's right.
We've pulled together, the scientific papers, fossil info, and honestly, some pretty surprising stuff about this plant eater from Asia, Late Cretaceous.
Hmm.
And our goal here is, well, to give you a solid overview, what Bactrosaurus was, why it's actually important in the big dino story, and yeah, some unexpected things its bones revealed.
And even the name, Bactrosaurus, kind of gives something away, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It means club lizard, from the Greek bactron for club, sauros for lizard. And it points to these really distinct sort of club-shaped bony bits on its vertebrae.
Club-shaped spines. Okay, so this club lizard,
Yeah.
where did we first find it? Where did the clues pop up?
The first major find, Actrosaurus johnsoni, was in China, out in the Gobi Desert, the Iran-Dabasu Formation.
Gobi Desert, okay.
And what was really key was that it wasn't, just one bone here or there. They found partial skeletons, 6 of them.
6. Wow, that's pretty good going for a first find. And not all the same size, I gather. Different ages.
Exactly. That was the other big thing. The fossils seemed to cover a range, possibly young ones right up to mature adults.
Huh. So you get a glimpse of its whole life cycle almost.
Yeah, it gives a really valuable look at how they grew, how they changed. It's quite rare to get that.
So who was the paleontologist who put the name to the bones? Who described it first?
That would be Charles W. Gilmore. He officially described and named Bactrosaurus johnsoni way back in 1933.
1933. Okay. Now, 6 partial skeletons. That sounds like a lot, but it's still not a complete picture, is it? We don't have like a perfect head-to-tail specimen.
No, you're right. No single fully complete skeleton has turned up yet. But, and this is important, even with just those partial remains, Bactrosaurus is actually one of the best-known early hadrosauroids.
Really? Even incomplete?
Yeah, its discovery was a huge step forward for understanding that whole group, a really foundational find.
Interesting. I also saw, looking through the notes, something about a B. Caesalcumensis with a question mark.
Yeah.
And Bigsaurus. What's going on there?
Oh, good catch. So, B. caesalcumensis, question mark. That one was originally called something else, Cyanodon, back in 31. The question mark now just shows there's still some scientific debate. Is it really a Bactrosaurus or something else?
Right. Ongoing discussion.
And then Bakesaurus. Yeah, that's more like, well, it's an informal name, a nomen nudum, technically.
Meaning
Meaning it was never formally described and published according to the rules. It's based on just one bit, a maxilla, a jawbone, found in China. Someone linked it to Bactrosaurus in 2001. It got mentioned in a book, popped up online.
Yeah.
But yeah, not official.
So, intriguing hints, maybe, but Bactrosaurus johnsoni is the main solid one we know.
Exactly. That's the type species.
Okay, got it. So, we know how it was found. Let's picture it. What did this club lizard look like? How big are we talking?
Well, a typical adult Bactrosaurus was pretty substantial. Probably about 6, maybe 6.5 meters long.
So what's that, 20, 21 feet?
Yeah, roughly. And weight-wise, maybe 1.2 metric tons, about 1.3 short tons. A decent-sized herbivore.
Definitely. Plant eater, late Cretaceous. You said about 96 to 85 million years ago.
That's the window, yes. Cenomanian to Santonian stages, technically. So yeah, a sizable plant muncher in late Cretaceous Asia.
What made it stand out from, other dinosaurs eating plants around then?
Well, what's really interesting is its mix of features. It's an early hadrosauroid, sort of a precursor to the famous duckbills.
Okay.
But it still had some traits you see in the earlier iguanodonts, like its teeth were stacked, 3 replacement teeth behind each one in use.
Ah, that stacked arrangement.
Yeah, and small teeth in the upper jaw. But maybe the most surprising thing for an early hadrosauroid, it seemed to have been built, well, pretty powerfully, quite robust.
Huh. A sturdy early duckbill relative. That's interesting. You mentioned it had sort of intermediate features, too, between the later hadrosaur groups.
Exactly. So later on, the hadrosaurs split into 2 main branches, broadly speaking. You have the lambeosaurians, often with those big hollow head crests.
Right, the fancy ones.
And the saurolophines, which mostly lacked those big hollow crests. Bactrosaurus being earlier, more basal on the family tree, it kind of shows a mix of characteristics. You can see hints of features that would later define both groups.
So it hadn't fully committed to one branch yet, evolutionarily speaking.
Something like that, yeah. It gives us clues about what the common ancestor might have been like. We even know the size of one of its leg bones, a femur, about 80 centimeters.
2.5 feet, roughly. Gives you a sense of scale.
That does.
Now, that club part of the name again, was it like a tail club for defense?
No, not quite like an ankylosaur's tail club. The name, as I mentioned, comes from the shape of those neural spines,
Hmm.
the bony projections sticking up from the vertebrae in its back and tail region. They just have a sort of club-like shape on some of them.
Ah, okay. So it's about bone shape, not function as a weapon.
Right. Now, about the head, there was some early thinking, wasn't there, that maybe it did have some kind of crest.
Yeah, I think I saw some older drawings where it had a little bump or something. What's the latest on that?
Well, the current understanding places Bactrosaurus more firmly as a basal hadrosauromorph. And generally, these earlier members, they didn't have those large hollow crests that came later.
So probably no crest.
The consensus now is, yeah, likely crestless. Any earlier ideas might have been based on incomplete fossils or just assumptions before we understood its place in the family tree better.
Okay. So summing up the look. Sturdy build, probably crestless, plant eater, interesting teeth, links to earlier and later groups. Got it. Now, the big question. Why should we care? What's its real significance?
I think its main importance really comes down to its position in time. It's one of the earliest hadrosauroids we know well.
The ground floor, almost.
Pretty much. It acts like this vital link. It shows us what was happening right around the beginning of the evolution of this incredibly successful group, the duck-billed dinosaurs. It helps bridge the gap from earlier plant eaters.
So it's like seeing the early design stages for the later duckbills.
Exactly. It's a really crucial piece for understanding that whole evolutionary story.
Makes total sense. But, okay, there was something else in the research that just jumped out. Tumors. In Bactrosaurus fossils. That sounds unusual.
Oh, it was, and still is, a really remarkable discovery. Yeah, back in 2003, a study came out showing evidence of several kinds of tumors in Bactrosaurus bones.
Wow. Not just like one iffy bone.
No, they identified things like hemangiomas, those are tumors from blood vessels, desmoplastic fibroma, even metastatic cancer.
Metastatic cancer that spread in a dinosaur.
Yeah, and also osteoblastoma, a type of bone tumor, a whole range of pathological conditions.
That's incredible. How can you possibly tell that from fossils millions of years old?
Modern technology, basically. The researchers, Rothschild and his team, used medical imaging, things like CT scans.
Like hospital CT scans.
Exactly, and fluoroscope screening. They scanned the vertebrae very carefully. It's amazing what these non-destructive methods can show us inside the bone.
Just mind-blowing. Were these tumors common? Did they find them in lots of other dinosaurs they looked at?
Well, that's another interesting part. They did find some tumors in other related hadrosaurs like Brachylophosaurus, Gilmoriosaurus, and Montosaurus, but the frequency seems significantly higher in Bactrosaurus and its closest relatives.
Yeah.
And this wasn't a small study. They looked at, I think the number was over 10,000 fossils.
10,000. Okay, so finding a concentration in Bactrosaurus really means something then.
It certainly suggests something was going on there. It wasn't just random chance across all dinosaurs or even all hadrosaurs looked at.
So any ideas why? Why Bactrosaurus and its kin might have been more prone to this?
The original paper floated a couple of possibilities. One was maybe environmental factors, something in their specific habitat. Exposure to toxins, maybe, or radiation, we don't know for sure. Or maybe a genetic predisposition. Perhaps this particular branch of the hadrosaur family tree just happened to be more susceptible to developing these kinds of growths.
Like it runs in the family, so to speak.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to prove definitively with fossils, obviously, but those are the main hypotheses.
It's just staggering. Thinking about these huge animals millions of years ago dealing with things like cancer, it makes them seem, I don't know, more real. Less like movie monsters.
It absolutely does. It's a field called paleopathology, the study of ancient diseases. And findings like this really highlight that these were living, breathing animals facing biological challenges just like animals today.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive. Bactrosaurus, from its discovery in the Gobi
Those 6 individuals.
to its unique mix of features, that sturdy build, the tooth setup,
You're right.
its key place as an early hadrosauroid.
That evolutionary link.
And then, yeah, the whole tumor story, just incredible.
It really shows how much we can piece together, doesn't it? From fragments of bone, we get anatomy, evolution, even disease.
So maybe a final thought for you, listening. Think about this club lizard, this creature from 90 million years ago, finding evidence of tumors, of cancer, way back then. What does that tell us?
Yeah, what does it suggest about how ancient these diseases really are, and about the ongoing, interplay between life and environment, deep through geological time?
It definitely connects the deep past to our present in a pretty profound way, something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.